We'll call the meeting to order, and we can't vote on anything, but if anyone has comments, we can.
We can do all the work when Mike comes in, then we'll vote.
That's right. Okay, so I will call to order a meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee at 5:35 p.m. in room 208. Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Commissioner Plant.
Present.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Here.
Mr. Rosenblum.
Here.
Alderman O'Brien is absent. Mr. Garino from the Board of Ed had a conflict this evening. Ms. Kleiner from the Mayor's Office is unable to attend this evening. Commissioner Grant had a conflict from the Fire Commission, and the Library Board of Trustees has not identified anyone yet to attend. Also in attendance is Alderman McCarthy and Director Cummings from Economic Development. Director Marchand from Community Development has a training going on about accessory dwelling units for the zoning board, so she is unable to attend this evening. We don't have a quorum, but I have passed out some of the notes from our last meeting, and I just thought we could have discussion if since the last meeting there are things you had thought about. And unfortunately everyone is not here, so I think I'm going to just send out some of the information from one of our early meetings. We had talked about strategic planning kind of being, not getting down in the details about how we do things, but kind of taking that bigger look and thinking towards the future and laying some guiding goals for people to make decisions on how they would use their resources across departments. So in that light, that's how we've been approaching the goals and developing the benchmarks underneath. So I've copied what we had, although I noticed what was attached to the minutes did not have what we put in for 6 and 7. But if people have thoughts, we can have that discussion, or if you would rather, we can adjourn.
I have a question, if you
Sure.
don't mind. Kevin Moriarty. Because the last meeting was my first meeting, and I came to this meeting, I guess, not knowing what to expect. And so I'm clear, this is an automatic meeting, that committee that was
Yes.
developed?
Yes, the Strategic Planning Committee is, the responsibility for organizing it and guiding it is with the Planning and Economic Development Committee of the Board of Aldermen, which is why I'm chairing it. But it also, if you look at the legislation, specifies that the Chair of Infrastructure and the Chair of Budget are also part of that committee. Alderman McCarthy can help me fill in the blanks, but originally, like probably 2 terms ago, this committee was made up of the Chair of Planning and Economic Development and actually the division heads. And it was determined that it should really be the elected members of boards and commissions rather than division heads to get public input and the input from a city perspective. And Brian, I'll let you fill in on my 5 cent summary.
So we originally had it as, it was the 3 department, the
Heads,
3
right.
chairmen from the Board of Aldermen plus a number of the division directors. And when we looked at that, that makes less sense under some administrations than it does under others. So what we did was to go through the elected boards and get a representative from each board that submits a budget. So that basically, any board that has oversight of one of the department budgets has a representative on this committee.
So
And
we.
the other, okay, I'm sorry.
No, no, I was
The-
just
The other
going to-
question I had, because I think Alderman McCarthy said last time, I thought you said that the major goal was the downtown of this committee. Is that what strategic planning committee is focused on downtown, or are we talking about the whole city?
The committee is intended to create a strategic plan for the city.
Okay.
My comment was that one of my top priorities for that plan is the downtown.
And the conversation we had earlier too is that the downtown is the heart of the city.
Yeah.
And without that, the other stuff kind of falls apart. So if the focus is on that, the other part
Right.
is part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had, oh, I'm sorry, Director Cummings.
I was just going to suggest that it may help for the newer members of the Strategic Planning Committee if the chair or someone gave maybe a 30-second synopsis of all the work that has been done up to this point, which will help fill you in on how the conversation, you're kind of coming in the middle of a conversation,
Right.
which started back last session.
Right, and I had said to Commissioner Moriarty prior to you coming in, we just were speaking privately, that I actually photocopied some things I had thought information had been shared with new members of the committee. And that was my error last week. I realized that after I left the meeting. But we went through the whole process of, I think, starting with what we know best, the individual pieces we all have responsibility for. And from that, we backed up and said, wait, it's about a vision and it's about a shared goal that reflects it, the mission and vision for the city, and that each department will then say, well, this is what it means for my department to be promoting vibrancy and clearly communicating. So what does that mean for Parks and Recs versus what does it mean for Public Works? And so if you go through and look at each of the goals, everyone can see where they fit in. But it's looking towards what are the bigger goals for the future and what we want to have guiding how we operate as a city. Director Marchant presented us with some information, some charts on strategic planning, and I'm going to go through and I photocopied those for tonight, but I think it might be better if I just put them together in packets and email them to folks so you can take a look at them. But that's where we're coming from. So we started with, again, those little things we know best to kind of wrap our head around it, and then said, well, wait, we're getting into the weeds. And this is what the divisions need to be doing. We need to look bigger picture and have some goals that everyone can see what their role is
And we
in
started
supporting those.
with sticky notes, putting down
Yes.
all the things that,
A lot of
we thought we'd like to see, and then long story short, then we tried to group them and ended up grouping sort of in this venue. But the strategic plan is at the 50,000 foot level, how do we make Nashua what we want it to be going forward? And I don't know if we picked a time frame, but say the next 10, 15, 20 years. Much like the airport has a 25-year plan, although the first one we did in about 4. But this big plan, and then look at what that entails, and who needs to be involved to make it happen. Actually, before you get to that point, can it actually happen? And part of the can it actually happen is funding. We can't say that we're going to do something that the city will never be able to afford. But things that are within reason, and then see how each one of the commissions, if you will, can add to that.
Right.
Obviously, public safety with police and fire, and infrastructure would be the BPW, and transportation, the airport, and hopefully trains someday. Things like
Very
that.
good.
Right. So it will drive the priorities of the divisions, which will then drive budgeting. So that's how we're looking at
Good.
it working. And Director Marchant's certainly looking forward in terms of doing the master planning work also
Right.
that needs to be done. Yes, Mr. Rosen.
Mike Rosenblum from the airport. At our last meeting, we had sort of, at some point, mentioned that the airport should be part of our strategic plan, but I don't know exactly what goal that would fall under, or if that's a new goal, or what we decided.
And I guess I look at this as part of, where do you see yourselves fitting in? I would certainly look at you as part of the system, and I don't know if it's really infrastructure, but you're certainly important towards our economic development.
Mhm.
And how do we support you in that way? Be it supporting your needs for services, or land use, looking at what we need to
So-
do to support you.
Yeah, for instance, on economic growth, a major part of that would be, you have corporations that utilize the airport for a number of different things, and how do we ensure that our airport is user-friendly and attractive to the companies that Mr. Cummings is trying to bring to Nashua, or that are already here?
Yeah.
And how do we communicate all that you're doing now? We don't know all of that, do we?
Right.
All the companies that are there and all the, one of the common threads that seems to come up here is communication of all these things.
And I would say, Mike, when many of us came to the sculpture symposium last year, to the opening at the hangar, and people were saying, oh, we could rent this? This is a really cool venue. And other people were just like, wow, we didn't even realize what we had out here. I think that helped just promote the airport in general. Because there were people there who said to me, wow, I had no idea what was out here. I haven't been out here in ages.
And you'll get an invite for this year's
May.
symposium.
Already got it and
Yeah, I got it,
responded.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you hosting that out there has done a lot to just make people aware of what's out there.
Okay.
By the way, the other day I flew over the airport on my way to Manchester, and it's quite a bit different than it was before all those paving projects. Really looks pretty sharp
Yeah,
from
thank you.
up high.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments?
I just had an aside. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if that's going to be announced in the newspaper, that symposium, or something.
I'm not involved in that. I don't, there's
I
a
bel-
separate committee that.
Yeah, it's on the city website.
Oh, is it?
It is, and I can send it to you through City Arts Nashua, through their newsletter. It's in there. And the host schedule is for that, and the artists, the sculptors are going to be working out at Make It Labs.
Oh,
this
okay,
year.
yeah, yeah.
That's where they're going to be located. But if you go to the city website, you can find it there. And the invitation went out. I think tickets are like $15 for the opening.
I'm sure it'll
Brian,
be in
did
the
you
paper.
find it?
It's May 10th, 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Just so you know, the airport needed to get approval from the Department of Transportation of the state to host that, because it is a non-aviation activity, and the hangar was used with DOT funds and FAA funds, so, and they approved it, so there was no problem. But we do have to go through some hoops when we do those things.
Yeah. And we appreciate you doing that.
Oh, no, it's good for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments?
Just one other thing about improving the city. I just happened to drive by this afternoon on my way to the hospital. The BPW garage up in Manchester, that is pretty sharp. I wonder how much it cost them to build that. That's right near the police station. It's like a complex, but it's,
Seems
It
a little
wasn't
bit,
cheap, but it was built a while ago.
yeah.
seems like it's blocks, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's I don't know how many bays there were, but you could see bays and bays. And it's, good, good location too. They could pave that street if they wanted to, but. All right.
Well, seeing no one else, and I know you need to leave also at 6:15.
Right.
I will just adjourn our meeting. I thank you all. And we will work around budget, locking up every free date.
I locked as many as I could find.
No, and we'll set another meeting. But certainly when you go back to your boards and commissions, if you want to have conversation about this and bring back input.
That-
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned at 5:53.